welcome to the Papyrus Global TV. I am Christiana Babayo and this is the news. Before we begin, here are the headlines. Niger state government blames school for students' abduction, sparks outrage. Katsina government orders immediate shutdown of all public schools. Benue Governor Aliya clarifies controversial no genocide remarks. Federal government closes 41 unity schools nationwide over security threats. Catholic Church says 227 pupils, teachers abducted in Niger school attack. Reps urge INEC to provide insurance for NYSC members injured or killed on duty. President Tinubu felicitates Nuhu Ribadu on his 65th birthday. Now the news in full. The Niger state government has suggested that the Catholic school itself bore some responsibility for the abduction of its students and workers, angering community leaders and church officials. According to government statements, authorities believe there was a lapse in security protocols at the school, which may have made it a soft target for kidnappers. Critics, including the Catholic Diocese and parents, strongly rejected the government's claim, calling it insensitive and pushing blame away from the state's responsibility to protect vulnerable institutions. The diocese insisted that the state owes the victims a thorough investigation and immediate action to ensure their safe return. Security analysts say such remarks from the government would undermine trust and cooperation between citizens and the state, making future rescue operations more difficult. In a sharp move aimed at safeguarding students, the Katsina state government has ordered the closure of all public, private, and all public primary and secondary schools across the state. The directive comes amid growing fears over banditry and insurgent attacks targeting educational institutions. Officials say the closure is temporary and necessary to evaluate the security situation and implement measures to protect students, including relocating schools in high-risk areas, increasing security presence, and enhancing intelligence gathering around school compounds. Parents and teachers have expressed mixed reactions. While many support the move as a life-saving measure, others worry about prolonged disruption of education, especially for children in rural communities who may not easily access alternative learning arrangements. Benue State Governor St. Yomen Aliya has moved to clarify and defend his earlier comments on the ongoing killings in the state after widespread backlash. At a National Human Rights Forum in Abuja, Governor Aliya has stated that while insecurity in Benue is very real, what is happening does not amount to genocide, a remark that has since sparked intense criticism across political and social media. In his clarification relayed through the State Commissioner for Information and Orientation, Dr. Peter Obo Egbodo, Aliya emphasized that he did not deny or minimize the violent attacks, but rather cautioned against simplifying the causes and purely ethnic or religious. According to the governor's office, remarks suggesting otherwise are based on misinterpretation. They argue that calling the violence genocide without nuance risks derailing effective multi-sector solutions by framing it only as a sectarian crisis. Aliya defended his earlier statement, explaining that his reference to plans followed religiously by the perpetrators was not meant to label the violence as a religious war, but to highlight the chilling level of coordination, timing, and strategy being used by the attackers. Said that his concern is that in framing this as a genocide, public discussions may miss root causes such as criminality, land extremism, and economic drivers, factors that must be addressed if peace is to be restored. To back up his position, Governor Aliya pointed to ongoing initiatives from his administration. He told residents the government is working closely with security agencies to improve early warning systems, protect vulnerable communities, and offer support to displaced communities. He also called for a more inclusive approach to conflict resolution, urging traditional leaders, civil society, and government officials to collaborate in rebuilding trust and rebuilding lives. While sympathetic to victims, Aliya appealed for calm. He asked supporters and critics alike to view the crisis through the lens of reconciliation, not political point scoring. We must work together, not divide ourselves further, he said, adding that recognizing the complexity of the violence does not weaken the case for protection, it actually strengthens the argument for collective action. The federal The federal government has announced the temporary closure of 41 unity schools as a precautionary security measure amid rising threats to student safety. The shutdown affects multiple states, especially areas vulnerable to banditry and extremist attacks. According to a statement by the Ministry of Education, the closures will allow for thorough security assessments, reviewing perimeter defenses, increasing patrols, and implementing risk mitigation protocols, including potential relocation or reinforcement of security personnel. Parents, teachers, and students have expressed mixed emotions. While many applaud the government for prioritizing safety, others worry about the academic and psychological impact on children during the closure period. We will now go on a short break, and when we come back, the news will continue. Stay tuned.
The Papyrus Global, we don't just cover events, we create cinematic experiences. From red carpets to birthdays, gala dinners, and your fairy tale weddings, we bring your moments to life with high-tech precision. Our gadgets are smarter, our lenses sharper, and our team simply world-class. Trust the Papyrus Global to tell your story in the boldest, brightest way possible.
Welcome back, and now the news will continue. The Catholic Church reports that as many as 227 individuals, including pupils, teachers, and staff, were abducted during the recent raid on a Catholic school in Niger State. The figure released by church officials underscores the scale of the crisis and the community's deep distress. Catholic authorities are calling for fast and decisive government intervention, demanding that security agencies identify and dismantle the groups responsible for the attack. They have also appealed for national and international solidarity, emphasizing the moral urgency of effective rescue operations. The church has also launched a fund to support affected families, provide pastoral care, and mobilize legal resources to ensure the safe release of the abducted victims. The House of Representatives has proposed that INEC, Independent National Electoral Commission, arrange an insurance cover for NYSC members who die or are injured while on election duty. The motion raised by several lawmakers highlights the risk corps members face during elections and calls for greater institutional responsibility. According to the motion sponsor, NYSC members often serve in volatile areas during their electoral assignments, yet there is no consistent mechanism for compensating their families or supporting medical expenses when things go wrong. The lawmakers argue that providing insurance would demonstrate INEC's commitment to protecting its manpower and valuing their sacrifices. The proposal has drawn support across party lines. Some Republicans and civil society advocates say the cost is justifiable, given the service corps' role in Nigeria's democratic process. However, critics warn that added financial burden on INEC could complicate its budget and urge transparency in how the policy would be implemented. President Bola Tinubu has extended warm birthday wishes to Nuhu Ribadu, Nigeria's pioneering anti-corruption crusader and former chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC), as he marks his 65th birthday. In his felicitation message, Tinubu praised Ribadu for his steadfast dedication to justice, anti-corruption, and national integrity. He described Ribadu as a role model whose work has inspired a generation of Nigerians fighting for accountability in public service. Ribadu, who also served in various security and governance capacities, remains a respected figure among both political and civil society circles. Observers note that the President's public tribute signals recognition not only of his past service but also of his continued relevance in Nigeria's reform discourse. And that brings us to the end of the news on Papyrus Global TV. I am Christiana Babayo. Thanks for joining us.